So grateful to be here and very happy to discuss these incredibly important and hard to talk about topics. He has an incredible backbone and staggering moral fiber. Howie is totally committed, completely ethical, totally admirable. No pressure if you can hear this, but honestly, Howie's a hero to me.
John, you joined us before, and it was a pretty incredible kind of testimony you gave, and you just devoted your life to advocacy for child trafficking, and even 9/11 truth. Maybe you could explain to us, in the last decade, what do you think the most challenging parts of coming alive on some of these issues have been?
Probably the hardest thing, and it continues, is just realizing that pretty much everything that I was told and taught since I was in grade school is probably not true.
Well, on that note, hi everybody.
Hello.
Hi JT. Howie, are you with us?
I am there. I am here. I'm here.
Everywhere, like the shadow?
It's something like that.
Something like that.
How are you?
Me? Every night that we set out on this adventure again, I do have the feeling I don't know the word for. It's incredibly important we talk about this stuff, and it is very hard to do so. And I think tonight what we're going to be looking at is how this cancer is woven into certain parts of our culture, and that it's often at the very highest levels that this pedophilia is practiced. And every day there's a new opening in the wall where we just see another piece of the puzzle, and it's, awful. But we have to talk about it. People have to care about it.
Yeah. Tonight I'm pretty angry. I'm pretty angry about.
Yeah, pissed off would be good. That's exactly where I'm at.
Pissed off, yeah, but I also have tears in my eyes. It's just appalling. But it's not about crying. It's about getting angry enough to do something about it. On that note, I want to just let the listeners know that we're going to be talking about elite sporting pedophilia tonight. JT is going to bring us a lot of research on that end. And what I want to do is open it with the name from the recent past of Jerry Sandusky. It was alleged at the time that Sandusky was running a ring for donors to his Second Mile charity out of Penn State. That's a rumor that was whispered for years before the story broke. And as you may or may not know, it turns out that Jerry's son, Jeffrey Sandusky, was busted for soliciting his girlfriend's 14, 15-year-old daughters for, nude photos, and I'm a doctor, you can trust me, I study medicine, let me touch you type stuff. Wherever that went, he was arrested back in February. I can find not a trace of anything that happened with that since. That, of course, is heartbreaking when the prey becomes the predator. Of course, Jerry had more than one adopted kid, and I want to share a quote from his son, Matthew, who has since changed his last name now. That quote is this: "These people need to be stopped. Human beings need to rise up and say, enough is enough. We want to pretend it's not happening here because Jerry Sandusky was a one-off predator. We need to take a stance and say our priority is protecting children, and we will do everything we can until that happens." Matt Sandusky, not Sandusky anymore, has since started his own nonprofit concern for people who have survived child sexual abuse and sex trafficking. I haven't done much research into it. Why he wouldn't focus on getting kids out of that situation is something only he could answer. But our objective is to get kids out of that situation, not just help them afterward. Unfortunately, people talk, and they talk, and they're not heard until enough of them say it, until people can confirm their story, which I suppose brings us to this horrifying scandal in women's college gymnastics.
Just horrible is the right word. I'm just going to start off with, and as the what we call the show is nothing sacred, and the answer is nothing is sacred. For me, the Olympics, gymnastics, athletes in the Olympics, even, I watched as a child, and I just can't get my head around that this cancer and abomination is just pervasive in everywhere you look. And I had heard about the case we're going to talk about tonight, which is Dr. Nassar and Michigan State University, USA Gymnastics, and just starting to research it a day ago, I'm overwhelmed with the amount of information, and it goes way further than I thought it went myself, and I try to keep up on some of these things, but let me just say right now, if you're listening to this and you have children, or you know anybody that has children that's involved in any sport, any school organized sport, gymnastics, football, baseball, softball, you need to go to the Indianapolis. One second, let me just pull this up. The Indianapolis Star is the newspaper, and their series called Out of Balance is one of the best I've ever seen on USA Gymnastics, on predatory pedophiles that are infiltrating our society. And if you're a parent, you just need to read this entire series. It's incredible. I'm going to be trying to get in touch with the reporters who did this, because this is all going on right now. Dr. Nassar's behind bars. Thank God, he was out on $1 million bail, but the feds have filed charges, and this is all an ongoing thing. So we're just going to look at it and take Dr. Nassar as one of the individuals, and as Howie and I found out, there are many individuals, coaches, the head gymnastics coach of Michigan State that was basically obstructing justice and having these children not report felony sex abuse. So John, go ahead, Howie.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just for the listeners, Dr. Larry Nassar, he was the head trainer of Michigan State University, and he was also the head trainer of USA Gymnastics. So he had two jobs, and he was doing stuff at Michigan State, and he was also doing stuff with the United States gymnasts, not just the Olympic gymnasts, but anybody who gets to a certain level. Just wanted to put out there for the listeners, just so they know who Larry Nassar is.
Yeah,
I don't even call him.
He's currently suspended with the state of Michigan, but you can see, and I'll just start the timeline. We pick Mr. Nassar up in 1978, as soon as he can, which is relatively early. And this guy is a serial sex offender, a serial child rapist. Okay, and where does he go off the bat in 1978? Okay, North Farmington High School in suburban Detroit. He earns a varsity high school letter in women's artistic gymnastics in 1981. So that he's headed right for his victims, and most of his victims are young females, children. Okay, so he heads right for that in 1978. 1985, we have him graduating from the University of Michigan with a degree in kinesiology. So he was, kind of a trainer, physical therapist. He was working with the football team and track and field program. And again, if you have a kid that's in any organized sports, you need to read this series by the Indiana Star or the Indianapolis Star and get involved in what's going on with your children. Okay. Cause this we'll just go on with the timeline. 1986, he joins USA Gymnastics. What is USA Gymnastics? They are the overseeing organization that oversees the training of our young people into, up to Olympic athletes. Okay. And they, we're going to talk about one of the facilities that actually this Nassar guy was involved with. And that facility is operating right now, and I'm going to talk a little bit about their website. And so at any rate, in 1986, he joins USA Gymnastics national team medical staff as an athletic trainer. Okay, and this is this organization, which is also under the auspices of USA Gymnastics. It's operating right now, and it's run by a man named John Geddert. Okay, in 1988, that's who Nassar began working with, John and Catherine Geddert, who later opened up Geddert's Twisters USA Gymnastics Club in Diamonddale, Michigan. Okay, and that's up and operating, and so he has an association, and I'm not accusing John or Catherine Geddert of anything other than they operate Twisters USA Gymnastics Club. But they were associated with Dr. Nassar as far back as 1988, and we'll keep going through the timeline here. Okay, so 85.
Can I jump in for 1 second?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the statistics on USA Gymnastics, it's the sports national governing body that develops U.S. Olympic team and promotes the industry at all levels. Its members include more than 121,000 athletes and 3,000 gyms. Wow. 121,000 athletes, 3,000 gyms, all under the auspice of USA Gymnastics.
I want to add that Geddert was the 2012 Olympic coach as well.
Yes.
You don't think he travels in rarefied circles? Indeed, he does.
Yeah. And he had an association, and we'll see. It's not going to be very long before, at least with the lawsuit that was filed in just this year, we have victims that are accusing John Geddert of knowing about the sexual abuse and not reporting it. So let's keep going through the timeline here. So 85 to 89, Nassar's working as a graduate assistant athletic trainer, Wayne State University. If you went to Wayne State University during those time frames or had children, I'd be talking to him. While enrolled in a master's degree program, he drops out when accepted to medical school at Michigan State University. Okay, and Michigan State University is going to be the university that hides his sexual abuse. So he goes to Michigan State. He receives his osteopathic medical degree in 1993. Okay, and 1994, a gymnast who later becomes an Olympic medalist alleges Nassar began sexually abusing her in 1994, and that was according to a 2016 lawsuit. Okay, and the abuse allegedly continued for 6 years. Okay, so I'm sure this guy has been offending since as soon as he had access, and probably before. And we'll find out that the first three cases that he's charged with were not gymnasts; they were children in his neighborhood. And so this is a prolific serial pedophile. Okay, so here's when the Geddert's name come up again in this timeline. 1996, Nassar completes family practice at St. Lawrence Hospital in Lansing. Since merged into Sparrow Hospital, he's appointed the National Medical Coordinator for USA Gymnastics. He attends Olympic Games in Atlanta with the gymnastic teams, okay? And the Gedderts opened this Twisters USA Gymnastics Club that is still open and operating right now as we speak. Okay, so we move on to 97. He's getting more education, primary sports medicine fellowship. becomes a team physician and assistant professor at MSU. Okay, more access. Okay, it's not enough for Nassar that he has access to all the kids in at USA Gymnastics Club. He's getting access at Michigan State University too. Okay. Oh, and if that's not enough, he's working as a team physician at a high school. Okay.
I also want to interject, if I may, that
Sure,
USA Gymnastics and Twistars Gymnastics, they both work with little kids. We're talking 12, 8. So these are not necessarily high school girls.
And
they
hold
started
on
out
to your
very, very young.
hold on to your hats, okay? Because I'm looking at their website. This is Geddert's Twisters Gymnastics Club, under the auspices of USA Gymnastics. Okay, this is what they say on their website. You can DuckDuckGo that, and it's twistersusa.com. Discover gymnastic opportunities for boys and girls ages 12 months to 18 years. 12 months. What on earth could a 1-year-old baby be doing in a gymnastics program? I mean, that just sends shivers down my spine. Again, and I'm not accusing them of doing anything, but just, we're seeing that there's reason to question, what's going on at these places. And according to a lawsuit that was filed in 2016, Mr. Geddert was aware of sexual abuse that was taking place and failed to report it, and that's in that lawsuit. So, again, I'm not accusing these people of anything, but I tell you what, and we're going to go through the Indianapolis Star also did a great article. You'll find it in that series about what kids can do to protect their children that are in these programs, and we'll cover a few of those points. But I mean, 12 months to 18 years, so they're all manner and ages of children, and that's just one of these gyms. And how, Howie, I know you were some of the research that you did was showing, all these different gyms in different areas, and some of these coaches that were identified as pedophiles just moved from gym to gym. Was that correct when I was listening to what you were telling me?
Part of the Indianapolis Star reporting basically showed that the allegations were made against a lot of coaches, and the allegations were brought up to USA Gymnastics, and basically they were ignored. And the coaches oftentimes moved from gym to gym. If he was accused at one gym, he would just move to another gym within the system. What I just say, there were 3,000 gyms. There's a cover up. There's a shuffling around. It's reminiscent to me of when priests were accused in a parish. They were moved to another parish. I mean, it just jumped out. The similarities were so striking.
And there's actually a coach, Bill McCabe, out of USA Gymnastics. Is this man on your radar?
Yes, I have 4 cases. I'll read off from the Indianapolis Star about allegations were made against coaches. Nothing was done. They were allowed to continue, and they continued molesting children, and then eventually got arrested. But if the initial allegations were looked into, it could have been avoided, obviously.
And again, last week we're talking about a culture of corruption at the D.C. Police Department involving child trafficking, and what do we find? And probably wider and more pervasive is a culture of corruption at USA Gymnastics and our universities. And we were talking about this earlier. This, in my mind, calls for a nationwide investigation of all athletic programs at all colleges, high schools, because if I think we'd be very naive to think this was only going on at Michigan State University. Am I crazy?
No,
me
the
to,
world is crazy.
nothing to say there.
You want me to answer that?
No. I was gonna jump in with these 4 cases to give the
Go ahead,
listeners
please. Yeah,
an
please,
idea.
'cause
Okay.
yeah, we'll come
So,
back. We'll come back to the exploits of Larry and
now
later.
now the statistic I got off of NPR was that in 2 decades, 368 athletes came forward with allegations against coaches to United States Gymnastics. 368, and that's just the ones that came forward with allegations. So here's four of the cases that the Indianapolis Star brought out. USA Gymnastics received a detailed complaint in 2011 about Marvin Sharp, who was named the 2010 National Women's Coach of the Year. It described inappropriate touching of minors and warned that he should not be around children. 4 years later, I guess in 2015, USA Gymnastics finally reported Sharp to police, but only after it was confronted with another disturbing allegation about him. This one led to Sharp being accused of touching a gymnast's vagina, trimming her pubic hair, and taking sexually explicit pictures of her, beginning when she was 12 years old. Shortly after he was charged in federal court in Indianapolis, he killed himself in jail. So
Now that's the best outcome.
Well,
Yeah.
at least
given the situation, we need more of that.
Right.
Wow.
But if the allegations, if they in 2011 were taken care of, that never happened to that 12-year-old. So why it was, and it seems it was only they only came forward after this 12-year-old. The second case, USA Gymnastics have compiled a thick file of complaints against Coach Mark Scheifenbein. Years before, he was charged with molesting a Tennessee girl when she was 10 years old. The girl's family contacted police in 2002. Scheifenbein penetrated her with his finger multiple times, according to police reports. He also videotaped an exposed vagina for what he called training purposes, so he would know where not to touch her. I don't even understand that. The girl's family was shocked to discover the history of complaints against Scheifenbein, which came to light only after prosecutors subpoenaed records from USA Gymnastics. The jury in Tennessee convicted him in 2003 of 7 counts of aggravated sexual battery and one count of aggravated sexual exploitation of a minor. He is serving a 36-year prison sentence. Case number 3, USA Gymnastics had sexual misconduct complaint filed against James Bell at least 5 years before his 2003 arrest for molesting 3 young gymnasts in Rhode Island. It's unclear what the allegations contained in that file, but the Indy Star found prior police reports on Bell in Oregon. In 1990, an underage gymnast told police that Bell had climbed on top of her. He wanted to take her pants off. In 1991, a 10-year-old gymnast said Bell had stuck his hand inside her shirt and pinched her breast. Bell wasn't charged and continued coaching until his former employer reported him to police in Middletown, Rhode Island. He went on the run in 2004 and wasn't arrested until last year. Bell pleaded guilty in December in Newport County, Rhode Island, to 3 counts of child molestation and only serving 8 years in prison. So, I mean, this, in 2003, it was reported, but I mean, there were accusations going back to the early 1990s. And the final one, USA Gymnastics received at least 4 complaints against Coach William McCabe that Elle just mentioned. As early as 1998, one gym owner warned that the organization in 1998 that McCabe should be locked in a cage before someone is raped. USA Gymnastics never reported the allegations to police, according to federal authorities. He began molesting an underage girl in 1999. So 1998, there were accusations, started molesting a girl in 1999. McCabe continued to coach children for nearly 7 more years until another gymnast went to the FBI with concerns about emails. Oh, no, it was the mother went to the FBI with concerns about emails to her then 11-year-old daughter. McCabe was charged with molesting gymnasts, secretly videotaping girls changing clothes, and posting their naked pictures on the internet. He pleaded guilty in 2006 to federal charges of sexual exploitation of children and making false statements. He is serving a 30-year sentence. So all these guys bouncing around, accusations floating around, and still allowed to keep going until there's actually, until somebody makes enough noise that they have to confront.
And the only reason this is we're reading about this is the victims. Some of these victims had the courage to come forward, and after being shut down by the head coach of Michigan State University, who recently retired. I mean, these kids, and like you said, it sounds familiar. Wow, it sounds like kids coming forward in the Franklin scandal and giving depositions and then being intimidated into not either retracting their charges or not filing charges. I mean, it's just disgusting. And this is the USA Gymnastics. These are the people who are charged with taking care of these kids. Okay, and we're going to read a little bit of a letter that their since resigned president, Mr. Penny, put out to the country as a whole, an open letter about how upset they are about what has happened and what they're trying to do to change it. And I was reading that letter, I wanted to throw up. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say you can see the grooming that's going on here. Not every, if there were 368 allegations made, some of them were just inappropriate touching. But the doctors and the coaches were penetrating with fingers, because that they for training techniques and things like this, and seeing which girls are going to be, which ones they could get away with it, more. So they were probably doing it to just about everybody.
Yep. And all the people involved, this was a network, any way you want to put it. I mean, you had the physician grooming the kids, sexually assaulting them. You don't think he was in contact with the other members and the coaches that were doing this? Of course they were.
Oh, yeah.
So
sure.
this is a child trafficking network. Okay, and just with what I'm reading, I mean, the Justice Department should be investigating USA Gymnastics and how they obstructed justice over 2 decades, talking these kids out of filing charges. That's called obstruction of justice, I believe. And we're both talking about Senator Feinstein and that sickening letter states, we have senators that are proposing legislation that we have to report this to the police. Are you kidding? When did they become exempt? I mean, if I find out about a felony and I don't report it, I think that makes me an accessory. Or if I'm actively discouraging a child not to report this to a police, that would be obstruction of justice, I would think, unless the laws have changed. And how are they exempt? Oh, wow.
Well, they're actually, I mean, you're required, anyone is required to report this. I mean, that's already on the law. If a child if you find out about, any type of, sexual abuse of a child, everyone is required to report it. But this is getting away from an individual more towards an organization. And what you were just saying about both the Senate in March of this year, and then just last week, the House, both passed bills saying that passing bills saying that athletic organizations are required to report allegations of sexual abuse to the proper authorities. And, why we need bills for that, who knows? But it's basically in response to, the Larry Nassar, case.
Yeah. Pretending that they care and they're going to do something about it. And it just popped up. We were talking about Adrian Jones' case, a week ago or more, and they're now passing a law in Kansas that if an adult sees a child being tortured, they're required to report it to the police. Really?
And one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing, because I think it was just in the past few months that the Pope relieved clerics of their obligation to report abuse.
Really?
Get curious, everyone.
Yeah, and actually, I'll just remind everybody real quick, we are live tweeting, and we have a live tweeter who, Intellectual Muse on Twitter, who reminded us that she's been doing some research into this athletic scandal for months. This smells like Dennis Hastert, and of course his friend Tony Podesta. So
I'd like to pick up that ball, if I may.
Yeah, please.
Some may or may not know that Dennis Hastert was the Speaker of the House, meaning he was literally third in line to the presidency. He was also running things when Mark Foley, pedophile Representative Mark Foley, got the Washington Page program shut down because he was preying on the young boys in that program. All right, so Denny Hastert, as his friends, like the Podestas have called him since their trip to Japan back in the 70s when they were all students, Denny Hastert went from coaching kids wrestling to politics. He was a kids wrestling coach for 16 years, and actually he wrote a book in 2004 called Speaker: Lessons from 40 Years in Coaching and Politics. And there are some tasty little quotes from him talking about teaching values, taking the kids on trips, how it was better to have as many kids as possible in the van because they wouldn't get as much trouble. And it's just revolting because we know now that this man was raping these kids that were entrusted to his care. At the same time, he pretended to teach them core values like being the better man and teamsmanship and playing fair. And of course, as you may or may not know, Dennis Hastert was outed as the repugnant monster, powerful, repugnant monster that he is, because he paid hush money to some of his students / victims and lied to the FBI about it.
And that's what he got accused of, right? He didn't even the rape charges, they were too old to even prosecute, right?
Well, yeah, he was busted for the lies.
The lies, right.
And there may have been a financial element there of malfeasance or laundering. I haven't gone down that road. But now this monster, this prig, this prick, this Podesta pal from the day has the nerve to sue his victim for opening his mouth after taking the hush money. This is a man at the highest echelon of our country, and it could be even argued our world. Speaker of the House for how many years? The 2000s? The 10s? This guy was as well connected as you can possibly be.
Yeah.
Nobody knew.
Oh, everybody knew.
And now everybody knows, but you know what are the and thank God he's behind bars, but
yeah,
probably
Club Fed. Let me hear about it.
Yeah, not for long enough, and not under the conditions that he needs to be under. But let me pick back up. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to add one more thing because Elle brought up Jerry Sandusky, and one of the crux of the Penn State investigation, as far as Joe Paterno was concerned, was that what did Joe know and what did Joe do? And basically, if people remember that an ex quarterback and a quarterback coach, Mike McQueary, walked in on Jerry in the shower with a boy, heard rhythmic slapping sounds. Does this sound familiar? You guys remember this?
Yeah, say more.
Yeah, and so that's how this whole thing got started. So somebody walked in to the Penn State locker room, and Jerry Sandusky was in there with like a 10-year-old boy, basically having anal sex with them.
And Let's call it rape, please. Let's call it rape.
Right. I apologize. Was raping a 10-year-old.
Don't apologize, but God. Anyway.
So he didn't stop it. He walked out, and then the next day went to Joe Paterno, and Joe Paterno sent it up to the athletic director and the president of the university, and that's what the case. They had a trial. Three people were on trial from Penn State, and that just happened a few months ago. But the bottom line was Joe Paterno basically saying I sent it up to my superiors. Like Joe Paterno, I went to Penn State.
Wow.
Like there's Joe Paterno was the most famous guy probably in Pennsylvania. He was as maybe the governor was more powerful. But
Can I
Joe
just
Paterno,
say,
yeah.
I'm sorry, can I just say that the assistant coach who walked in on the rape and didn't know what to do except walk out was named Mike McQuarrie. And if you don't believe in hush money and other names he could name, get a load of this. He got $7.3 million from Penn State late last year.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I don't even know why. I don't know why he got that. I don't even know why he got money.
Well, first of all, he called it defamation. Second of all, his jury included 2 Penn State employees.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a coincidence. It's not a conspiracy. It's real.
And do we think that type of behavior was confined to the football program?
Interesting.
I don't think so. I wonder, what was happening with the gymnastics team? God almighty.
Well, the difference, I believe, and I haven't researched what you're talking about, but I want to make the point when we talk about corrupt organizations that have the mask of helping these kids. Sandusky had his Second Mile program. That was like, let me come help your kid who has no father and take him on camping trips at my fantastic estate on private tours of this famous school. Maybe one day you can go here. 8-year-old, 10-year-old.
Yeah. And the elite people that are in these circles, that are in these foundations, that are donors at Penn State University, and if you think these kids are not being passed around and trafficked, and you're crazy, and people need to know about that and light a fire under these people at the universities, at the state level, at your state government, and our Justice Department, and to have this properly investigated and shut down, because it's a plague. It's everywhere. I'm afraid where to look next. I really am. It's like you just.
We don't have to look anymore, John.
Yeah.
When you don't have to look too far that this stuff starts just coming at you. I mean, I'm new to this, and it's like when you just, it's a labyrinth. It just keeps going and going. The rabbit hole, whatever. And it's like you just type in something, and the stories connect, and it's like, what the? I mean, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
You got to be kidding me.
Well, how about the scandal with a UK kids soccer?
And I'm not.
I'm sorry,
really
football.
Up to date on. I'm not
going to pretend to be up to date on it either. But all you have to type in is UK, kids football pedophilia, and you will see the exact same thing is going on there. Again, that title, that documentary, An Open Secret, it applies to all of this.
Well, let me press on here with Mr. Nassar's timeline here, and I'll just get through this, and we'll just keep going on. But it's just, please, I beg you, if you're listening to this, and you tell everybody you can possibly tell, and start locally. We have that ordinance from Jim Rothstein. It's in our show notes from, I believe, the first show, and that's where we have to start. I mean, you have to start locally. You talk to people about that. You get that ordinance passed locally, and you go and talk to people at your high school. You talk to your county commission. Where all these pedophiles are hiding in plain sight, and we have to start this from the bottom up, because we've been waiting for the top to come down for way too long. So let me just get on with this Nassar before my head explodes. So 96. Okay, this guy's a serial offender. And it's alleged in 96 with this new lawsuit that filed in 2017 that parents brought these concerns to Mr. Geddert, who's still running this Twister's gym, about Nassar, but Getter doesn't notify police. So he's it's alleged in the lawsuit. It leaves a big question in my mind, and I hope anybody whose kids are going to any of these USA Gymnastics gyms will follow some of these little tips that we're gonna give them, and please educate yourself and read the exemplary work by the Indianapolis Star. So 98, okay. Court records again. Nassar is sexually abusing a 6-year-old daughter of a family friend. Okay, so this is not just, in all these cases you hear about, it's just child porn and they're just doing this. These people are offending. Okay, and let's call a spade a spade. And this is child rape. If they're viewing this material, they're participating in child rape. They're raping kids in the community. They're not just looking at this stuff on their computer and not offending. So this is Nassar. He's a 6-year-old, 1998. Okay, same year, a student athlete at MSU reports concerns regarding Nassar to trainers and coaches, but the university failed to take any action. That's a familiar quote there. They failed to take any action. Okay, 2000, another MSU student, more concerns about Nassar. The university failed to take any action. But that year he went to the Olympic Games in Sydney, Australia with the gymnast team. And if you're on this, and you'll see this in the article, her name is Rachel Den Hollander, and she's one of these victims. And just listen to what she has to say. She's come out. She's talking about she's a survivor of this experience, but and she would in 2000 she was 15 years old, and Nassar was raping her. So we move on. 2004 it continues. Okay, we have he's a victim in Ingham County. Tells her parents. They don't report it to police. Okay. He receives attempts. Okay. And this is 04, and he's getting child pornography in 04. He's raping 6-year-old kids. He's working with USA Gymnastics. He's working at MSU. And don't tell me that MSU did not know what this guy was doing. Okay. And if anybody would have stepped up and did the right thing, either USA Gymnastics or MSU, we could have stopped this in 2004 and not have another. I think his victim count is around 150 now. So it just continues. It keeps going. He goes to China in 2008. Okay. And we jump up to 2014 where MSU clears him of wrongdoing. 3 months, another MSU graduate complains that she was sexually assaulted during a medical examination. How on earth could he be cleared? But that's what MSU did. Okay.
Because victory at any cost, victory at any price.
Yeah. And it's a business. The university, sports is a business. Gymnastics is a business. And the bottom line way outweighs the need or the rights of a child, apparently, to USA Gymnastics. And they're an organization in flux. Their CEO was just forced to retire by the International Olympic Committee. So we get, and we're coming to the end of the timeline here. So he retires as USA Gymnastics medical coordinator, but this is in 2014. He was just cleared by MSU, though. He'll remain team doctor for women's artistic, so he's not going to lose access. He's holding on to that access. So we move all the way up to 2016. The Indianapolis Star publishes that investigation that you all out of balance that you all need to go on and read into USA Gymnastics and its handling of sexual abuse complaints over decades. Okay, and in 2015. Apparently, USA Gymnastics severed its relationship with Dr. Nassar and reported him to the FBI. But they don't say that to the general public. They don't say that to MSU. They don't say that, I'm sure, to the people who have kids in their gym. They say he had differences with some of the athletes. Well, differences with some of the athletes don't require reporting you to the FBI. So they do that in 2015, and I hold the FBI responsible for this too. And they let everybody think, he's just retiring, okay? and they give this serial pedophile another year to do what he's doing. And how many children's lives were stolen in that year, So we go on through 2016. Rachel steps up. The newspaper is publishing these articles. Excuse me. My arteries are just about to explode just reading this. I'm gonna have a stroke. But so finally, August 30th, MSU relieves Nassar of clinical and patient duties. Okay, September 8th, a former Olympic medalist files a lawsuit in California. She was abused from 94 to 2000. Okay, so we go through this, and what I want to talk about, and this is basically over. Okay, but so then he gets charged in August of that year, 3 capital sexual offense assaults, not against gymnasts, but neighborhood children. Okay, and he's out on bail. He gets $1 million bail, and he posts it. Okay, so he's out walking around, able to reoffend, and finally, the federal government charges him with the pornography that he had back in 2004, and he's currently off the streets. So, and we'll just go through we're talking about MSU again. This is a coach, the women's gymnastic coach, Kathy Klages, Klages. Okay, we find that Miss Klages was suspended in February. Okay, on the 13th. The next day she retires on the 14th. Okay, she was suspended because now claims are arising that during this whole time, the 1990s, she's the head coach. What is she doing? She's discouraging these children from filing sexual assault complaints against Nassar. Okay, and she's allowed to retire. Is she getting a pension? God, I hope not, but I bet she is. Okay, so more gymnasts are coming forward. So this 27-year head coach of the women's gymnastics at MSU is actively obstructing justice and preventing these children from filing sexual assault claims. So that's where it ends for me now. And it's just the charges keep rolling. Another 22 come up February 22nd, March 17th. MSU investigates an internal investigation, and it comes up with the brainstorm that a 15-year-old that was assaulted, that he violated university policy by sexually assaulting the girl. So thank God they did that investigation.
Right.
So
now, it's important to note that at Michigan State, he was working with, girls that were obviously over 18 at times, but he was also working with children because they had youth coming, to the university to work with Coach Klages. And one of the girls, she filed a lawsuit because she brought allegations, and she brought the allegations to Klages, who once again, basically, dismissed them. A lot from what I've seen, basically what they were saying is that Nassar would basically finger them anally and vaginally as part of medical treatment. And, if they had a back problem or something, that was part of his, thing. So, not every person was being actually raped, but he was going in there just during basic, injuries for giving them medical treatment. He's fondling them, fingering them. I mean, and then going to when the athletes were going to the coach, making these complaints, and for decades. I mean, I think there were, 150 just from Michigan State have come forward. 150 athletes did this stuff.
Well, and let me be the one person, and there's probably more than me. Actually, it's the Michigan Attorney General is involved in this right now. He's working with the FBI. If they're listening, or if you talk to them or tweet them or whatever, anybody listening, let them know that a nationwide investigation needs to be done on USA Gymnastics and their obstruction of justice, and they're violating I would imagine that would violate your civil rights as a minor who's being sexually assaulted, and you're being advised not to file any charges. So this should be a huge investigation. It needs to be of all the universities, of USA Gymnastics in particular, and any people that have been involved, at least with Nassar, and do a real investigation, because this is another pattern that we see. We'll take Adrian Jones, for example. Okay, they get the mother and father, they're going to jail for life, but they don't investigate the people that were viewing that torture online and paying for it. Okay, so just because Nassar is behind bars, the tendency is, okay, we got him, let's just move on, let's just nothing to see here. And I mean, the Justice Department really needs to be, what they're called, and have some justice for these children that are being raped by they're being raped by the institutions, but by these organizations.
John, did you want to just before we run out of time, did you want to mention Steve Penny?
Yes. Let me just. Oh God, I'm just so angry. Let's see. Here's his open letter, and you can DuckDuckGo this and find this open letter that they wrote.
But at least he has stepped down. He was the head of the president of USA Gymnastics for over a decade. He was defending himself in the midst of all these allegations, but he finally he succumbed to the pressure and finally resigned back in March.
Yeah, and this letter went out in March too, so I think he thought he might slide, but I'll just read a little bit of it. They recently initiated the most comprehensive, thorough, and independent evaluation of our athlete safety program to date. This is a community-wide effort designed to examine the culture and generate recommendations that can help USA Gymnastics strengthen its efforts in this area, which have been none. Their efforts in this area have been to subvert justice and shut these kids down. Okay, but they're paying a former prosecutor who spent her career prosecuting abusers and offenders. They're examining their requirements, mandates, and structure to identify ways to strengthen our program and better protect our youth. Well, I got a little news flash for them. You want to better protect your youth? Report what they tell you, okay? Don't shut these kids down and shut them off and discourage them from reporting sexual abuse. That might be a good place to start. So yeah, they go and they've. I'm just about done, but they've come up with a third organization. They can't even take the responsibility on. Okay, we're going to listen to children. We're going to report crimes when they're reported to us, but they now have the U.S. Center for Safe Sport. Okay, that's opening, and it's going to provide leadership for athletic safety. It's like, really, you need a third organization to make sure you're doing the least you could possibly do, which is listen to children that are reporting sexual abuse. So I'm just done.
Now from that letter, I took that before he resigned, Mr. Penny said that USA Gymnastics took all the allegations very seriously and were doing everything they can to protect children. Is that what I took from that letter, John?
Yeah, that's what it sounded like. Oh, above and beyond.
Okay. Well, they went above and beyond. Okay. Well, in the Indy Star article, USA Gymnastics would not, at the time of this article, USA Gymnastics would not disclose the total number of sexual misconduct allegations it receives each year. But records show the organization compiled complaint dossiers on more than 50 coaches and filed them in a drawer in its executive office in Indianapolis. The contents of those files remain secret, hidden under seal in the case filed by Gansner's daughter. I believe she's one of the mothers whose daughter was molested. I don't know if she was raped, but she was at least molested. So hidden in this file by Gansner's daughter, Indy Star, as part of the USA Today network, filed a motion seeking to make the files public. The judge has not in that case is not yet ruled. So I don't have an update on that, but there is a dossier on 50 coaches that had allegations levied against them and that were sitting in a drawer in Indianapolis. And they have to get a judge to decide if they're going to release those. To me, isn't that evidence? Like this is what people are up against. Unbelievable.
Yep. And we're going to have to make much more noise than we're making. And we're just about, we're running out of time, but please go.
Can I point at the Pope some more? I'm sorry.
Sure.
And actually, you probably have something that people can do right now, like referring them to Mr. Mayor Jim Rothstein's legislation.
Yes.
Perhaps
and
more useful than the fact that I can't say it enough. Look closely at what this Pope does. Look at what he does, not what he says.
Yeah, no.
I don't know if you've heard about
the
survivors of the Catholic school for the deaf who were assaulted for decades. And there was actually a nun arrested just a couple of months ago. The Pope is still ignoring the survivors, some of whom are elderly and ill, still ignoring them, as he does his Christmas message with a sign language interpreter there. Excuse me, but fuck you, Pope.
Absolutely. Please
Throne of lies.
Go online and read about the Catholic Church abusing children, serial abuse. There's a great The Keepers. We have The Finders, and now we have The Keepers. It's a great documentary that's on Netflix right now about what's going on and probably still going on in the Catholic Church, and it's being protected, as Al just told us, from the Pope. Well, yeah, I'm really serious about this, but you guys don't really have to report it. And please go to IndyStar.com and read the Out of Balance series. Every parent that has their children in schools or involved in any sports needs to read this and get educated and get busy and changing
Don,
this from the
Don,
bottom
it's any activity whatsoever where your child is alone with an adult.
Absolutely. Here. And put these people through background checks. It's I think it's like, I don't know, $10 a month to get everything you could possibly get on any. It could be a teacher, it could be, whoever's in contact with your kids.
Oh, hey, here's a nice tidbit. Young Joe Paterno has been made a trustee of Penn State. I guess we're all healed.
Yeah. And again, thank you.
Young Jay Paterno has been put on the board of the trustees of Penn because it's all better.
Never liked that guy. I went to Penn State, by the way.
Let me just say a quick thank you, because our live tweeters are pointing that out too. That the alumni, the backers, where are they putting their money? Okay, and the alumni organizations and children's sports. We need to look very closely.
My experience with Penn State is they don't care. They don't care. It's another topic for another day.
Yeah.
Well, but football at Penn State is apparently way more important than children. But that seems to be the case.
Does anyone still aspire to the Ivy League?
Some people do.
Jeez. Maybe I could be a gender studies major, you guys.
I want to thank you guys, because I'm telling you, this information is so awful that the only thing that makes it even palatable is that I'm on here with two friends that feel the same way and understand, the extreme feelings that come up going over this stuff, because I couldn't do it by myself. So thank you both.
Thank you.
And just as a note, Tuesday we're going. Put all the information online. And
to Anti-Media Radio with your host, Nick Brown.